Mighty companions. Mighty companions, mighty companions, mighty companions. This is Earl Purdy. I want to welcome you to A Course in Miracles. Say, brother, would you mind sitting across from me? Sure. That way I can just keep that direction. Thanks. We're going to continue to talk about how to deal with upset from A Course in Miracles perspective. We're going to talk about how to deal with anger, guilt, and grievances and those kind of upsets from A Course in Miracles perspective. From A Course in Miracles perspective. Would you like to know the right way to deal with upset if you want to keep your peace? Would you like to know the way that you deal with your fears if you want to keep peace? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to talk about today. So I want to ask you to take a breath. Let's take a second to let ourselves get centered. Let ourselves get centered. Take a minute, focus on your breath. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Take another deep breath right now. And I want you to remember one thing. I want you to remember that you don't have to believe it. You don't have to accept what I'm about to say. You don't have to welcome what I'm about to say from A Course in Miracles. Some of the ideas you might resist from A Course in Miracles. Some of the ideas you might resist. Some of the ideas you will find hard to believe. According to the Course in Miracles, it's going to say some things that you find hard to believe. And according to the Course in Miracles, it's going to say some things that seem to be quite startling. I'm looking forward to hearing something that startles me. You are not being asked to judge and analyze the ideas. You're not being asked to judge and analyze the ideas. It's using the ideas that will give the ideas meaning. Using the ideas will give the ideas meaning. I'm your divine repetition teacher. The Course in Miracles says that we get it through remembering and repeating, not through analyzing. Not through analyzing, but through repeating the truth is how we change our minds. Repeating the truth and telling yourself something different is how you change your mind. So if you want to think in a different way, it's through repetition of the way that you want to think and not the analyzation of it. So the Course says you're not asked to analyze or judge the ideas. It says the use will give the ideas meaning. Using the ideas will give the ideas meaning to you, and using the ideas will show you that the ideas are true. Using the ideas will show you that the ideas are true. And we left off in the Manual for Teachers, and in the Manual for Teachers, we're going to be in section 17, how do God's teachers deal with magic thoughts? Which is the same as saying, how do you deal with fear thoughts? How do you deal with thoughts of fear? How do you deal with thoughts of anger, thoughts of upset? How do you deal with thoughts of being separate? How do you deal with thoughts of guilt? Where are you? We're going to be on page 44, section 44, but I'm going to start on page 45 in the Manual for Teachers, the Foundation for Inner Peace, the Blue Book. How do God's teachers deal with magic thoughts that anything is real other than God? So how do we deal with that? That's where we start. So again, take a breath. I'm gonna get up to class right here on my Here we go. And we're going to start out with paragraph 5. on page 45 in the Manual for Teachers in the Blue Book. The Course in Miracles says, do me slowly. And my goal is for us to hear the Course in Miracles together and also hear what the Course in Miracles is telling us to do. So the first thing it says, and I do it in a question and answer format. So anger in response to perceive, we'll say, ego thoughts, fear thoughts, anger thoughts, magic thoughts is a basic cause of fear. So what's causing our fear is we're getting angry and upset about what's going on. Getting angry and upset about what's going on. Getting angry and upset about what another person is doing. Getting angry and upset about what's happening in the world. That's quite obviously the basic cause of fear. People are afraid because of the thoughts that they're having that's frightening them in response to the world. So anger in response to perceived ego, magic, fearful, guilty thoughts. That's the basic cause of fear. So the Course is getting you to understand that getting angry in response to your ego thoughts, in response to your thoughts, that's what's causing you to be afraid right now. Whatever you're afraid about right now, according to the Course, one of the things that's making you afraid is getting angry and upset about these fearful thoughts that you're having. Now, then, what is it that the Course in Miracles, what is the Course in Miracles asking us to consider? What is the Course in Miracles asking us to consider? The Course in Miracles is asking us to consider what this reaction of anger means. So what are we being asked to do? Okay, we should right now, what does getting angry mean? What does getting angry mean? Consider what this reaction means. What reaction? Getting angry. Consider what that reaction means, because its centrality in the world's thought system becomes apparent. So what does that mean? That the centrality of the way that the world thinks is based on getting angry at thoughts of fear and upset and the ego. So it's very central to the thinking of the world that you stay angry and upset about one thing or another. Okay, let me get this straight. All right. A magic thought, an ego thought, a frightening thought, a guilty thought, an angry thought, an upset thought, by its mere presence, acknowledges that you feel separate from God. Okay, so when you're getting angry, the Course in Miracles is saying what you're really saying, but you don't realize this is what you're really saying. What you're really saying is, I feel separate from God. I feel separate from God. I'm upset. I feel separate from God. I feel separate from God. I feel separate from God. I am acknowledging that I'm separate from God. That's what my anger is doing. That's what the upset is doing. According to A Course in Miracles, it's you acknowledging, I feel separate from love right now. I feel separate from peace right now. I feel separate from peace right now. Anger is the same as saying, I feel separate from peace right now. I feel different from peace right now. I feel separate from peace right now. So wherever you're angry in your life, wherever you're upset in your life, wherever you're feeling any kind of separation in your life right now, instead of saying you feel angry or afraid or whatever you're feeling, try just for a second saying, well, I'm acknowledging a separation from God right now. I'm acknowledging that I feel separate from my Creator right now. I'm angry. I'm afraid. I'm acknowledging I feel separate from peace right now. I feel separate from God right now. That's what you're really saying from A Course in Miracles perspective when you're feeling angry, is I am acknowledging that I don't feel connected to my Creator. I don't feel connected to love. I don't feel connected to Source. I don't feel connected to Source. I'm angry right now. I'm afraid right now. I feel jealous right now. See, I don't care if we cover one paragraph, if it's one paragraph that I can walk away, or you could walk away remembering something that's been said. So I'm much more interested in remembering the Course than covering sentences that people will have a tendency, including me, to not remember 15 minutes later. I would rather remember anger is what's causing my fear. And so being angry is me acknowledging that I'm not connected to my God right now. I'm not connected to my source right now. So whenever you feel angry, it's stating, he says, in the clearest form possible, your anger is stating that the mind, which believes it has a separate will that can oppose the will of God, that mind that believes it can think differently from love, that mind that thinks it can think differently from God, that person that thinks they can think differently from the truth. The Course says that when you feel separate from God, it's the same as saying my mind believes that it has a separate mind, a separate will. I believe I have a separate mind that can oppose God's will. I believe I have a separate mind that can oppose God's will. And I also believe I can be absolutely successful at separating myself and thinking different from the man of God. So, okay, let me get this straight. So the Course is saying to us, whenever you have an anger thought, a magic thought, that's you acknowledging that you feel separate from your Creator. Anger means I feel separate from my Creator. It also means you believe that you can have a separate thinking or a separate will that can be opposite to God's will, and that I also believe that my will, which the Course defines as mind, that I can have a mind that's different from God. Not only can I have a mind and thinking that's different from God, I can oppose God's will and I can succeed at doing it. Now, that this can hardly be a fact. What can hardly be a fact? That you actually can have a will that's separate from God's, that you can really do something separate from God. That is not true. That's what the Course is just telling me. He says, well, the truth is that can hardly be a fact. It's obvious. Yet that you can believe you got a will different from God's, that you can believe that as a fact, the Course says, is equally obvious. It's obvious that you really can't oppose God's will. You're not really strong enough, powerful enough, or separate enough to do that. And then the Course says the other thing that's obvious is you're not going to succeed. You're not going to succeed in being separate from your Creator. You're not going to succeed at being separate from love. You're not going to succeed at being separate from freedom. You're not going to be successful in being separate from good. You're not going to be successful in being separate from your good. You're not going to be successful at being not able to have your good. The Course in Miracles is telling me, and I want to let myself hear that because it feels so good. You can believe that you can do something opposite to the will of God, he says. But in fact, you can believe that you're absolutely doing stuff that's not loving, stuff that's not peaceful, stuff that's not of the truth. You can absolutely believe that. He says, no doubt about it. You can believe you got a will different from God. You can believe you have a will different from your Creator. He says, but every time you think opposite to the truth, every time you think you can have a will separate from God's, then the Course says, every time you think you can want fear over love, separation over oneness, he says, herein lies the birthplace of guilt. So where does guilt come from? Where does guilt come from according to the section that we're reading? He says, well, guilt comes from believing that somehow or another you disobeyed God, and guilt comes from believing that you're separate from God. So ultimately, guilt is coming from believing that we're separate from God. Ultimately, all guilt is stemmed from believing that you're separate from your innocence. Believing that you're not innocent. Believing that you're not innocent. Believing that you're not innocent. All problems that you have from a Course in Miracles perspective comes from you believing that you're not innocent. You believing that you're guilty. So the birthplace of guilt, he says it right here, the birthplace of guilt comes from believing that you have a separate will that can oppose God's will, and also believing that you're separate and different from love, that you're separate and different from God. Now, I'm going to take a minute to say something over and over. You are not separate from God. You are not separate from God. Every bit of guilt that you think you're going through about anything is coming from you feeling guilty because you know you're not telling yourself the truth when you tell yourself you're not loving, when you tell yourself you're not lovable, when you tell yourself you're not connected to God, you're not connected to love. Every time you tell yourself that lie, it makes you feel guilty. So the birthplace of guilt is coming from thinking that you can think differently from God and also thinking you're separate from God. You got me on that? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's why I tell you all, record these classes or watch them over and over and over again, because I believe in what I'm teaching and I believe in you. I believe in what I'm teaching and I believe in you. I believe in the course and I believe in you. I believe in you, and I know that you really want to get the Course in Miracles, and you really want to hear it, and you really want to go deep in it, and you really want to take advantage of what I have to offer at some level, because you wouldn't be here and you wouldn't be listening if you weren't. And that makes me feel good. But I enjoy the course the most when I'm working out of the book, letting myself hear what it's saying, and then trying to remember what it's telling me, than sitting around trying to analyze what it means. That's me personally. And I want to work with people who also want to do that. And in that process, a lot of people are going to come and a lot of people are going to go, but that's the way it is every time you make a major shift in what you want to do in your life. Some people are going to go with you. Some people are going to need somebody to take your place and use somebody else for the way they used to use you, but you're not there anymore. Or they're going to join with you, and you'll find that you have to choose sometimes to let them go. That's the other one. Sometimes you have to choose to let that go right now. So I want to know why there's fear. So the Course says, guess what? The reason why you're afraid is because you're having thoughts that are making you angry. You're getting angry at thoughts that you're having. That's what's causing your fear. You're getting angry at your ego thoughts, your magic thoughts. Then he says, what's a magic thought? He says, well, a magic thought, which is a thought that's not really doing something, but it looks like it is. You know, that's the way magic works. It looks like they're doing something and it's not. But the Course in Miracles says we have a lot of thoughts that look like they're doing something, but they're really not. So every time you have any kind of fear, anger, or guilt, you're acknowledging that you're separate from God. Because if you knew you were connected to God, you wouldn't be afraid. If you really knew you were joined to your Creator, you wouldn't be afraid. If you really knew you were one with the divine, you wouldn't be afraid. If you really believed in God, you would not be afraid. If you really believed in God, you would not be afraid. If you really believed in a higher power, you would not be afraid. You wouldn't be afraid because you wouldn't be experiencing a separation from love, and you wouldn't be experiencing a separation from God. So stop saying you believe in God and you're full of anger, or you're full of guilt, or you're full of grievances, or you're full of fear. Just feeling those things, he says, is an acknowledgement that you feel separate from God. That's so deep. Just the fact that you upset means you're feeling separate and not connected to your source, God, right now. Because if you were really connected to God, I'm sorry, you wouldn't be worrying about how you're going to pay your bills. Sorry. You wouldn't be sick. You wouldn't be angry. You wouldn't be in relationships that you don't fit. The Course is saying those things are just acknowledgments. I think I'm separate from love. I think I'm separate from God. Then he goes on to say, then you're going to feel guilty. And why is it that the person feels guilty? He says, well, you feel guilty because you are saying something that's not true. You're lying. You're feeling guilty because you're lying. You lie every time you say you're a body that's been just born to grow old and die one day. You're lying every time you say that you are not totally innocent to your very core, and that you deserve love to your very core. Every time you tell yourself that you are not sinless, then you're lying to yourself, and that makes you feel guilty. So acknowledging your separation from God, which is you getting angry and upset about the thoughts you're telling yourself, the Course says that's where the guilt starts. That's where the guilt starts. Then he said, okay, then he goes in even further. It says, who usurps the place of God and takes it for himself, now has a deadly enemy. Okay, the Course is saying, you guess what? You think you've taken over. And so now there's a part of you that thinks God is the enemy, because you have usurped the place of God. Now you think you're in charge of everything. So you've taken the place of God for yourself now. So since you think you got to since you think you have to be the one that's in charge of everything, and so now you have displaced God, Then he says, well, there's a part of your mind that feels like God is now your deadly enemy. That there's a part of the mind that feels like if I'm disobeying God and if I've taken over and I'm not letting my higher power guide me, and there's a part of me that sees God as something to be afraid of or possibly my enemy, well, then the Course says, now you must stand alone in your protection. Since you're no longer going to feel like you're connected to God, you're not giving God any reality, you're not giving your Creator any reality because you think it's all about you and you doing it all by yourself. He said, well, okay, if you think you need to do it by yourself and you got to do it by yourself, then you're going to stand alone in your protection. You're going to think it's up to you to protect yourself by yourself. You're going to think it's up to you to protect yourself by yourself if you no longer recognize that you're connected to God. If you no longer realize you're connected to your Creator, then that just leaves you having to look out for you. Okay, can everybody follow that reasoning? Then it says, now you need to make yourself a shield to keep God. Now you must make a shield to keep you safe from the fury that can never be abated and vengeance that can never be satisfied. Okay, now I'm on my own. I'm all alone. I've taken charge. I don't even believe in God. I think it's up to me to do everything myself. So now I got to stand alone in my own protection. So now I need to make me a shield to save me from God. God is my enemy. The truth is my enemy. Now I need something that I got to come up with since I got to save myself and protect myself. Then I need something to save me from this fury that my Creator has toward me that can never be abated and a vengeance that can never be satisfied. When I was a kid, I learned that God kicked butt and God punished you for not doing right. Did anybody else grow up in that? Okay, I know some of you in here have, and I know that some of you, and even if you didn't grow up in a religion, you grew up in a culture that was influenced by all of this. So whether you think so or not, is having an impact. That's the other thing. And also, it's got something to do with getting past those old religious terminologies or looking at it in a new way, because that's the way Course is written. And I don't believe that Jesus or the Course and the divine makes mistakes. So if Jesus and the divine wrote the Course the way that it's written, then I'm going to accept that there's something about the way that it's written that I needed to also learn, deal with, even though it says it's okay for you to change the form. It's just since you don't change the content. So it's okay to substitute and change the words. But the truth is, it's like it's trying to tell me, you think you're all alone, but you also think your Creator is upset with you about that. So now your Creator has become your enemy. And so now you got to come up with a way to shield yourself, because my Creator is going to take vengeance on me in some way. I'm going to be punished in some way because I'm not obeying and acknowledging my relationship with God. Okay? Then the Course in Miracles says, how can this unfair battle be resolved? And then I go, what do you mean unfair battle? Yeah, it's unfair. You versus God. Guess who's going to lose? It's a totally unfair battle. Okay? Let me get it straight with you. This battle with love is an unfair battle because love is greater than fear. It's the same as saying God is greater than your ego. So then it says, how can this unfair battle be resolved? It says, I love this as well. Let me tell you something, boys and girls. I will tell you, its ending is inevitable. I will tell you how the battle between you and God is going to end. Your death. Your outcome is going to be death. God, you're not more powerful than God. You're not more powerful than your Creator. You're not more powerful than your Creator. You're not smarter than your Creator. You're not better at making yourself happy than your Creator. Your relationships can be chosen for you better than your Creator can choose it for you. Your abundance cannot come to you in a better, easier way than your Creator can channel the abundance to you. Your health cannot come to you in a better, easier way than the way your Creator could bring your health to you. You trying to do everything on your own by yourself, thinking that you're separate from God, so therefore you got to take care of yourself by yourself and protect yourself from all the stuff that's happening in the neighborhood. Is all happening because you get angry and upset because of thoughts that you're having right now that's making you feel afraid. That anger is making you feel afraid. Your anger is what's making you fear, not the situation that you think you're dealing with. It's not the situation that, it's not you being able to pay your bills, for instance, that's keeping you from feeling afraid. You feel afraid because you feel separate from your God. You feel separate from your Creator. You don't feel connected to all that is. God, another name for God is all that is. That's the real reason why you're feeling afraid. It's not that you think your partner might leave you for somebody else. That's not the real reason you're feeling afraid. The real reason you're feeling afraid is because you are acknowledging that you feel separate from God, and your anger is making you feel afraid. And that fear is what makes the world that you're looking at right now that seems like it's full of fear and things to be afraid of. The reason why you're in a world that it looks like frightening things happen. Would you like to know why it looks like you're in a world where frightening things happen? You're in that world where frightening things happen because you are having frightening thoughts. You can't talk about what you're afraid of and angry about all the time and expect to see love and bliss all around you. It's really kind of funny because it's so obvious. You can't be the saddest person in the room and think you're going to be surrounded by happiness and joy. You will be when you're around people who love you. They're going to love you anyway. They're going to love you. They're going to love you whether you feel happy or sad or anything else. Somebody that really loves you, they're not even worried about what you're doing, like how people are worried about what somebody else is doing with somebody else. It's like, really happy people, they don't have time to worry about stuff like that because every moment is so full of joy. So when you're happy, you're not suspicious and concerned about what you think everybody else is doing. It's only unhappy people that's suspicious and jealous and insecure, but that's because he's telling us right now they're having thoughts that make them think they're separate from God. So let's keep going. This is really funny. Okay. So he says, well, how can this unfair battle be resolved? He says, the Course in Miracles says, its ending is inevitable. And I'm going to tell you what the end is going to be. What is it going to be, boys and girls? Death. Death. Then how can you believe in your defenses? How can you believe in your plans? Well, your ego thoughts, again, must help. Your way of thinking that you're making up must help. See, magic, I have to really understand when the Course says magic, it's talking about any thoughts that I have that I can do anything without God. Any thoughts that I'm having that I can do anything without love. The idea that I can do anything without, that I can come up with some kind of plan to defend myself. He says magic, again, must help. That magic is nothing but false ideas. Ideas that look true, that's not true. So then here's the instruction. Are you ready for the instruction? Okay, this is what I want you to do. That battle that you think might be going on between good and evil, or God and the ego, or you and your Creator. He says that battle that seems to be going on between love and fear. What does the Course say? Forget the battle. Forget it. I know you think your boyfriend did this last night. Forget it. I know you think your boss did not give you the evaluation that you did. Forget it. You think life is against you. You think there's a battle between you and God. The Course says, forget the battle. Then it says, accept that there is a battle as a fact. There's a battle going on. There's a battle going on within me. Does anybody in here have a battle going on within them? Sure. Okay. Then it says, accept it. Then do what? Forget it. I accept it looks like you have a big call for love and you're not doing what I want you to do right now. I'm going to accept that you're really not doing what I want you to do right now. I'm going to accept it as a fact, and then I'm going to forget it. I'm acknowledging that I feel afraid because I still get upset about the thoughts that I'm having, and it makes me feel separate from God. And sometimes I think I got to do everything by myself, and if anything, my Creator is my enemy because I'm so bad and it's out to get me. He says, what should you do? Accept it and forget it. Accept you have those stupid thoughts and just forget it. Yeah, I got some angry thoughts. I got some guilty thoughts. I got some jealous thoughts. Okay, I'm going to accept it. And then I'm going to forget it. And then he says, forget what? Well, take it to another level. there seems to be a battle with God, except you're having a battle with God, then forget it. And then he says, then what do you do? Now, this is going to blow your mind. I'll see if you can get this with me. This is one of these Course in Miracles things that I love to pull on course students, okay? It says, do not remember the impossible odds against you. And that's the truth. We don't remember the impossible odds against us. We already don't remember the. He says, you don't even know the impossible. The odds are so much more in favor that you're going to receive happiness and love and joy and peace and abundance that you don't even have any idea of how impossible the odds are that are against you. Don't remember the immensity of the enemy. You're right. I don't remember God. I don't even know if there is a God. I'm still trying to get clear that there is a creator. Even though I seem to exist, and reason would say if I exist, I have a creator, but we're not going to go there. We're not going to use any reason. That's against the law. That's against the rules. It's to use any common sense and reason. Like you exist, something created you. Those of you who doubt that there's a creator, I'd like to say you're innocent, but it's kind of obvious that you exist. So something created you. That's common sense. But since you're not aware of your relationship with it, you out here trying to make it every day on your own, hoping you'll be safe because you're trying to figure out how you can protect yourself. So I'm going to tell you to accept that you think these things and then do what? He says, and then forget it. Don't remember the odds against you. Don't remember the immensity of the enemy. Who's the enemy? God. Don't think about how frail you are in comparison with God. I don't want you to think about how frail you are in comparison with God. I don't want you to think about how frail you are in comparison. Say it this way. I don't want you to realize how frail you are in comparison with love. Love is so great that I don't care how much fear and insecurity that you have, it will still win out, and you're going to end up experiencing love. I don't care what you think about yourself. I don't care if you like yourself or not. I don't care if you think you deserve it or not. I don't care. You still going to get the love. The love is still going to come to you. The good is still going to come to you. And there's nothing you can do to stop love. Now, what's not love can be stopped by anything at any time. When somebody don't love you, they can stop at any time. Because if they stop loving you, they never love you. According to the Course, love never changes. I think this love can't change. It can grow. He said, no, it was created to grow. So it didn't change. That was its nature. So it didn't change. It just keeps growing. Okay, would y'all like to go further? Keep on going through this thing like we're doing? Okay. Because you can always listen back to it. But I'm getting this. I want to hear it. Then the Course in Miracles says, now this is one of my favorite ones. If you really want to let yourself off the hook. You ready? It's this one. Accept your separation. Can you feel the relaxation? I'm going to accept that I feel separate from you. I think there's a you over there and a me over here. And I think that's true about everyone in this room. And I think that's true about everybody that's watching me right now. I think I'm separate. I think I'm separate from this chair I'm sitting in. I think I'm separate from this microphone. I think I'm separate from those books. I'm going to accept that I think I'm separate. Like he says, accept, how do you put it? He put it, accept your separation. And then what was part 2 of the instructions? Do not remember how separation happened. Do you know what? We've already succeeded at that. I do not remember how my separation from God happened. And I don't remember how my separation from you happened. Does anybody else remember? So it's only asking us to do what we're already doing. That's how the Course in Miracles is like that. It's always asking you to do what you're already doing, because if you do what you're already doing, then it is being done. So it keeps you right in the present. So it's saying to us, well, you really don't remember how you became separate from God. But I'm telling you, don't remember it. What? I'm telling you, don't remember it. Don't remember how your separation from love came about. Don't remember how your separation from God. Then it says, then right before that, remember it said, don't remember the immensity of the enemy. How great God is. I'm not afraid of God. I'm afraid of my Creator. I wouldn't be afraid at all. That's what he's saying. You know, if you're afraid at all, you're acknowledging your separation from God. So I don't care what you're afraid about. You're acknowledging your separation from oneness. Okay, now it's back on. I forgot to ask God. It immediately came back on. As long as so deep. Trying to figure out. As long as I was trying to figure out how to do it, it stayed off and wasn't working. If you notice, I took a breath and said, okay, let me think about it, let it come in. And I did that. I paused. And then I looked back down and it was back on again. That's what's going to happen if you're a sincere student of the course. You're going to find that the Course in Miracles will prove itself to you as you do it. If you actually do it, then you won't be questioning if it works, because you'll see it work when you do it, right? But here's what the main message. The main message is there's nothing you can do to block your good. There's nothing you can do to keep your good from steadily coming to you and the opportunities for you to have your good steadily come to you. No matter whether you do what the truth says or not, whether you are a loving, kind, cool person or not, you're still going to be helped. You're still going to be loved. You're still going to receive good. It's still going to come to you. The only problem is, which isn't a problem, is you're not allowing it. And you're not allowing it because of your fear. And your fear that creates all your fears is coming from believing that you're separate from your Creator and believing that you're separate from God, the same thing. That's really where your bills are coming from. Your unsuccessful relationships and career are coming from. When you're from that health condition, it's coming from you believing that love isn't with you, that love isn't in you. That's what's causing your pain and your unhappiness. So then, but remember, you're not powerful enough to keep your good from coming to you, because your good is coming to you from God. It's coming to you from your Creator, and you're not strong enough to keep something from getting to you that God wants you to have. You will not successfully keep yourself miserable in that area. And do you know the area I'm talking about? You know the area I'm talking about. It's the area where you don't feel peace. That's the area of your life that you are in control of. If you want to know where you are really ruling in your life, where you are really the chief, it's everywhere in your life that's not working. That's not bringing you joy. That's how you can separate the projects you're in charge of and the projects God is in charge of. The ones you're in charge of, you're disappointed. And the ones that God is in charge of, you feel total peace about. So now you know how much of your life that you think you're in charge of because you think you're separate from God and on your own. Okay, then he jumps down. Then the Course in Miracles jumps down, says, on the next line says, accept your separation, but do not remember how your separation came about. Don't remember how the separation happened. Don't remember how the separation happened, but believe that you won the separation. Believe, you know what? I wanted to be separate, and now I'm a separate guy named Earl Purdy. But do not retain the slightest memory of what is our definition of God? Of course, is your great opponent. That we look at God or happiness or truth or freedom or the spiritual stuff as being the great opponent. So he says, don't retain the slightest memory of God. And guess what? I don't have the slightest memory of God. Really. And so I've done that great. He said, but because you forgot God, it looks like to you, God forgot you. So when you forget somebody, it's going to look like they forgot you. What? Say that again, Earl Purdy. Projecting the fact that you are the ones who have forgotten your connection to God. You're the one that's forgotten your Creator. Projecting your forgetting onto God, it looks like to you guys that your Creator doesn't care about you. It looks like your Creator has forgotten you. It looks like you're here trying to make it on your own. You're here trying to make it on your own. You're here trying to make it on your own through your own wit, through your own wisdom, through your own intelligence. So I'm going to say it to you again. It looks like to you, God has forgotten you. The divine isn't looking out for you, because that's why you got to look out for yourself, because there's nothing looking out for you. So the truth is, the only reason why it looks like your Creator has forgotten you is because you're the one that's forgotten your Creator. How many things do you do during the day that you think about God, the Creator, love when you do it? How many decisions do you make in the day that you ask what God's will is for you, what Spirit will is for you? How many times during the day do you think about your Creator when you're doing anything that you do? So it looks like your Creator has forgotten you because you're the one that's forgotten your Creator. You're the one that's forgotten, not God. God has forgotten you. You've forgotten God. Love hasn't forgotten you. You've forgotten what love is. Oh my God. Woo, I love this. Oh man, I'm taking a chance. I might have 2 people show up, but nobody, even online, but I'm going down this road. I'm going down this road of 44 years of reading this book, reading it like I'm being told to read it after 44 years. And I'm going to see who is the right message for, right? Because that's the only thing. It's like, that's all. The people in your life that's close to you, they're just the one that your message is for. Right now, don't look like I got a message for nobody. So let's go to the next paragraph, shall we? Do y'all sometimes feel like God has forgotten you? Right, I do. It's like it looks like, you hear people say it all the time. How could there be a God if children are starving? You see, that's what the Course is telling us. You all believe that God, first of all, there's some part of you that's afraid of your Creator, and you think your Creator's out to get you because you've been a bad boy or girl. That you don't really realize that you're a child. You're a child of God. It says you're an adult of God. It says we're children. We're children. We're children. We're children. And so we have the wisdom of children. And so it's saying, I don't care what you think. I'm going to love you. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to be here for you no matter what you do, no matter what you think you've done. I'm going to love you. I'm going to be here for you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to heal you. That if thought is creative, if thought creates your reality, you want a thought like that. Yeah. So a conscious being is spending all their time trying to allow themselves to think the right thoughts, more so than spending any of their time trying to change anybody. Show me a person that's asleep, and you're showing me a person that's trying to change everybody around them in order to be happy. So I know that person is asleep, so I know I should not get too intimately involved with them, or I'm asking for drama. And that's how, then you don't enter the relationship because you see that person doesn't take responsibility for themselves. So then you don't go through the pain of that relationship. That's the answer. Don't get in it in the first place because you got vision and you can see. Then so now you know that you should only join with equals. You should only join with people who have the same purpose and goal you do. But you just don't know how cute they are. You don't know how much money that joker making. You see what I mean? Sometimes my desire to get it makes me lose my common sense. And I go ahead and choose something that I know is not best for me because I'm fated to have that experience. Like if you're wondering what you're fated to experience, because people ask me, what's the difference between fate and free will? Well, in my perception of it, fate is something that you know better and you go ahead and do it anyway. You just made the decision. You're going to have that experience no matter what. Mm-hmm. And then the one where you choose, and you choose for your peace, that's where you're using your free will. Because using your free will will always bring you peace. Your peace comes from doing what you choose to do and what you want to do. He says that's what, that's what freedom is. And the Course says the greatest freedom is having innocent thoughts. That freedom is a thought. It's not a physical condition. So all you have to do to free your mind is to stop focusing on the things you feel guilty about. If you stop focusing on the things you feel guilty about, the innocence in your mind will heal everything. So I want to admit to you all that sometimes it looks like I'm on my own and it looks like God has forgotten me and I've got to figure out how to take care of myself. Anybody relate? Mm-hmm. Right? He says, but what will now be your reaction to anger and ego? He says, now the Course in Miracles is going to tell you what happens when you have those angry, guilty thoughts, which he calls magic thoughts that you are separate from God. Okay, so here it goes. Whenever you think you're separate from God, those thoughts reawaken your sleeping guilt. So when you think you're separate from God, when you think you're separate from love, when you're getting angry, that reawakens your guilt. But it's guilt that you've hidden, but you haven't let go of. So you have some guilt that you've hidden from yourself. You have some hidden guilty feelings. You have some hidden guilty thoughts that you haven't let go of. So what wakes up your hidden guilty thoughts? Well, I'll tell you what wakes up your hidden guilty thoughts. It's your getting angry at yourself and getting upset about anger thoughts. Stop getting upset about getting upset. Stop getting upset about getting upset. Stop getting upset about your ego thoughts. Stop being afraid of your ego thoughts. Stop being afraid of your negative thoughts. Stop being afraid of your negative thoughts. Stop being afraid of your negative thoughts. Your negative thoughts can't hurt you. Your negative thoughts can't hurt you. Your negative thoughts cannot hurt you. Stop being afraid of ego thoughts. Stop being afraid of magic thoughts. I have to take a breath behind that. Then it says, because each one of your hidden guilts, when you wake them up, they're going to say clearly to your frightened mind. You're going to have some thoughts that say to your frightened mind, these are the thoughts that your guilt is about to tell you. I'm going to give you the thought that your guilt is about to tell you. And that thought is, you have usurped the place of God. You took over. You threw God off God's throne. And don't think God has forgotten. Don't think God has forgotten. Don't you think God has forgotten. You have usurped. You have taken over. You're a disobedient child. You're not paying attention. You're not following love's will. So, you know that punishing God is going to get you. Don't think God has forgotten what you've done. So in your case, you might say something like, oh my God, I took over when I shouldn't have took over. And I don't think I can forget. I can't forget this thing that's making me feel guilty. So when you say to yourself, you have usurped the place of God, And don't think that God has forgotten because you took over. You've forgotten. You feel separate from your Creator. You're denying your Creator. Matter of fact, you're denying your Creator to the point you don't even remember your Creator exists. That's how much you're in denial of God, is to the point that you don't even think there's a God. And that's the greatest level of denial you can get into. You so deny God that now you think there is no God. And if it is one, they're trying to kick your butt because you've been bad. And you need to be punished. He says, here we have the fear of God. That is the fear of love. That somehow love is going to punish you. Love is going to hurt you. Love is going to bring you pain. The fear of God is the fear of love. The fear of God is the fear of love. The fear of love is the fear of God. So if you're afraid of love, you're afraid of God. And don't think God has forgotten. The ego tells you, the fearful part of your mind, it tells you, don't you think that your Creator has forgotten what you've done? He says, here we have the fear of God most, what kind of represented? Starkly. How was the last time you heard that word? Right? You all look really starkly today. You know, I mean, that's not a word I hear often. What about you? No, he says, here we have the fear of God most starkly presented. For in that thought that you have somehow taken over and that God is going to get you, the Course says, in that thought has guilt already been raised to madness to the throne of God. It is no way you can take over. It's no way you can take over. There's no way you can disobey God. There's no way you can hurt God. There's no way you can make the Creator mad. There's nothing that you can do at all to the Creator. You don't have the power to do anything to the Creator. So that's why it's ridiculous to be feeling guilty about something that you can't do in the first place. Stop feeling guilty about what you think you've done, because the truth is, unless you're doing something from love, nothing that you're doing is going to last. If you're not doing something from love and truth, no matter what it is, it's not going to last. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So stop feeling guilty. Stop feeling guilty, because now, do you make mistakes? Yes. Do you make mistakes? He says, yes, but mistakes are for correction. He says, well, if you make a mistake, all we want to do is correct it. You made a mistake, let me correct it. You made a mistake, let me correct it. You're making mistakes, let me correct them. I'm not going to punish you for your mistake. I'm not going to punish you. The Course says love isn't going to punish you. Your Creator isn't going to punish you. Your Creator is not going to punish you. Love never punishes you. Love never hurts. 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 What's love never hurts. Fear hurts. Guilt hurts. Lies hurt. Love, stop acting like it's love that has hurt you. Love will never hurt you. And it will never abandon you. And it will never give you caring that's conditional on how you act and what you do. So stop feeling guilty. It says right here, you have usurped the place of God. Don't think God's forgotten. Here we have the fear of God most starkly represented, because in that thought that God is out to get you, guilt has already raised madness to the throne of God himself. And now there is no hope. To check the drama out. Now there is no hope except to kill. I got to kill God, or God's going to kill me. Right? It says, here's your salvation now. Here's your peace now. There's an angry father pursuing you, his guilty child. Kill or be killed. For love, for that's your only choice. Either I got to kill or I got to be killed. I got to look out for myself and make sure nobody kills me unless I get them first. The Course in Miracles is saying to us, beyond this, there is no hope. It just looks like it's a life or death situation all the time, because what has been done cannot be undone. What was done cannot be done without. Stop believing that whatever you've done can't be undone. Every mistake you've made can be undone. Every mistake you've made can be undone. Every mistake you have made can be undone. Every error you have ever made since you were born can be undone. And all the consequences of your mistakes can be undone. All the consequences of your errors can be undone. All of the results of your mistakes can be undone. All the results of your mistakes can be undone. The stain of blood can never be removed is what your ego tells you. It tells you anybody that bears this stain, they have to die. Anybody that's this guilty, this bad, they have to die. Now picture the cavalry. Okay. Into this hopeless situation, God sends you, God's teachers. You bring the light of hope from God. There is a way in which escape is possible. I can get out of this crazy-ass world. I can get out of all this fear and insanity. There's a way in which escape is possible. But what if you want to get out the pain, if you want to get out the suffering, if you want to get out of this hopeless situation, what did it say next? It can be learned and taught. So you can learn the way out of this hopeless situation, and the way out of this hopeless situation of fear and chaos can be taught. But to learn it and to learn how to escape it, what is it that learning how to escape requires? Patience. And what's the other thing? Abundant willingness. Patience, now check this out. Patience is abundant willingness. That's what patience is. If I'm being patient with you, I'm just having an abundant willingness to keep on doing it with you. So patience is in direct proportion to how much you want it. The more I'm willing to have it, I'm going to keep on trying over and over again. You go, man, you're so patient with me. That's because I have abundant willingness. So it's hard to be patient about something you don't really want to do. So then it says, to be taught the way and to learn the way to escape from your pain requires patience and abundant willingness. Given what? Patience and abundant willingness. The once you are patient, the once you have abundant willingness, the once you have abundant willingness, the once you have abundant willingness, the lessons manifest simplicity stands out like an intense white light against a black horizon, because that's what it is. So here it is. Here is the answer. This is the way. If anger comes from an interpretation, it's your interpretation that's making you angry. It's your interpretation of that person that's making you angry. It's your interpretation of the situation that's making you angry. It's the way you're looking at it that's making you angry. Anger, upset, guilt, fear, all of it comes from an interpretation. And an interpretation is not a fact. Your interpretation of me isn't necessarily a fact. So that means your anger is never justified. Anger is never justified. Anger is never justified. Why? Because you don't have to be angry. Because you could change your interpretation and you wouldn't be angry anymore. If you had a new interpretation of the thing you're upset about, you wouldn't be upset anymore. So I'm telling you right now, there's no justification for your upset. There's no justification for your upset because you don't have to be upset. There's another way you could look at it that you wouldn't be upset. So I'm sorry, your upset isn't justified. Now, if your upset couldn't change, maybe it would be justified. But if you could change so that you don't feel that upset and you keep on choosing to be upset, then you're angry and it's not justified. Okay, I had never heard that said like that before, right? So it says, now check this out. The next thing says, once this is even dimly grasped, once what is even dimly grasped? That your anger is coming from an interpretation, and that your anger is coming from your interpretation, your judgment. The once you even dimly grasp that, what is the wonderful thing that happens? The way is open. The once, see, that's what we got to fly over. Now it says, once this is even dimly grasped, what even dimly grasped? That anger comes from an interpretation and it's not a fact, and anger is never justified. It says, once this is even dimly understood, the way is open. Okay, so what happens when the way is open? He says, what that means is now it's possible. Now it's possible for you to take the next step. Okay, once you get that your upset is coming from your interpretation and not the person in the situation, then the way is open. Now I can give you the next step. Do you want the next step? 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 Yeah. The next step is to realize, then that means if your anger is coming from an interpretation, then that means the interpretation can be changed. At last. So your magic thoughts, your fearful thoughts, your negative thoughts, your anger thoughts, your negative thoughts, your fearful thoughts, your sickening thoughts need not lead to condemnation. So your negative thoughts don't have to lead to you being condemned in some way. Your frightening thoughts don't have to lead to your condemnation. Because your magic thoughts, your ego thoughts, your thoughts of separation from God, your thoughts of guilt, your thoughts of lack, your thoughts of fear, your thoughts of sickness, your thoughts of attack do not really have the power to give rise to guilt. So none of your thoughts have to make you feel guilty. None of your thoughts have to make you feel guilty. None of your thoughts have to make you feel guilty. You don't have to feel guilty about any of your thoughts. You don't have to feel guilty about any of your thoughts, because none of your thoughts can change the fact that you are spirit and you are loved and you are lovable and you will always be helped and you will always be loved. So that is why, your thoughts don't really have the power to make you feel guilty. Because once you get that God is more powerful than your most negative, fearful, angry, selfish thought, then those thoughts will stop making you feel guilty, because you know those thoughts don't have any real truth and any real power, because you are a child of God. You are a child of love. You are a child of innocence. You are a child of the Most High. So then it says, now these ego thoughts can be overlooked and forgotten in the truest sense. So here's the last paragraph, because I'm going to go through this whole thing. Yeah. Do you know that madness but seems terrible? It does, doesn't it? The madness and the insanity we seem to see in the world, it looks absolutely what? Terrible. But in truth, the madness has no power to make anything. Madness has no power to make anything. Madness has no power. Madness has no power. Madness has no power. So like the magic which becomes the servant of madness, anger becomes the servant of madness. But I want to tell you this. Listen very closely. Do you know what you need to listen to? Listen to this. Madness and insanity neither attacks nor protects. So the truth is, your ego really isn't ultimately attacking you, but it also can't protect you. Your negative thoughts that are not, or your thoughts that are not based on the truth, those thoughts neither attack you or protect you. So to see your fear, to see your separation, to see your ego, to see your guilt, to see your insecurities, to see your sense of separation from God, and to recognize what it is for you to realize you look on nothing. So you'll get to the point that you realize that nothing in the world is affecting anything that's real, that nothing in the world is affecting anything that is real. There's nothing going on in this world that's really affecting anything that is real. There's nothing that you can think or do that can change eternal love. There's nothing you can do to take away the power of God. There's no action, no thought, no feeling, no emotion that has more power. So the Course says to us to see it and to recognize its thought system is to look on nothing. And can nothing make you mad? When you know you're dealing with something that's not even real, when you know you're dealing with something that's not ultimately even real, how could it give rise to anger? Hardly so. So what's that next word? Anybody's following me? What's that next word? Remember. Remember then, teacher of God. Okay, here's the summary. Anger is recognizing a reality that's not there. Whenever you're angry, you know you're looking at an interpretation. Whenever you're angry, you know you're looking at your interpretation and you're responding to something that's not there, which is your interpretation. But the fact that you are angry, yet is the anger, the fact that you are upset, that's certain witness that you do believe that the anger and that reality is real. You're upset because you really think it's real. You're upset because you really are thinking that what's happening right now is true. So anger is not coming from anything. Your anger is coming from your interpretation of what's going on. Your anger is coming, I'm getting mad at you because of what I've interpreted that you have done. I have interpreted that you broke your word, and now I'm angry because I'm interpreting. So you're always angry, always upset because of an interpretation. It's an interpretation. And since it's an interpretation, the next thing to realize, if you could change your interpretation, it would immediately change your feelings. Changing your interpretation immediately changes your feelings. If I interpret that your anger is a call for help, if I interpret that your anger is a call for help, if I interpret that your anger is a call for healing, if I interpret that your anger is an opportunity for me to free myself by remembering the truth, your anger is an opportunity for me to free myself by practicing the truth, then my anger would change to gratitude because I have a new interpretation of the situation. So you change the way you feel by changing your interpretation. He says, then guess what? Okay, you get angry, so you really believe it's happening. Now escape is impossible until you see you have responded to your own interpretation, which you have then done what? Projected it. I interpret you don't like me, then I project on you that you don't like me. I interpret that you don't like me, then I project on you that you don't like me. Then I react to you as if you don't like me. But it all started with my interpretation that you don't like me. Then I reacted to that feeling from thinking you don't like me. Then I project on you that you actually don't like me. And the whole thing happened in my own mind the whole time. So what do? The courts calls it a grim sword. What is a grim sword? The sword that you slicing yourself up with is responding to your own interpretations, getting upset, and then projecting it on the world and everybody else. That's a sword. And somebody needs to take that sword of judgment and that sword of interpretation. Well, give me that grim sword. Give me that grim sword right now. Give me your interpretation of reality that's keeping you miserable and unhappy and upset all the time. Give me that interpretation, right? Give me that interpretation sword. Follow, see the picture? Give me that sword. It's your interpretation that's making you upset. Then it goes on to say, guess what? There is no death. So I'm going to say it again. Nobody dies. Nobody dies. Nobody dies. Nobody dies. No one dies. No one dies. You all have eternal life. You have eternal life. You have eternal life. You have a life that's eternal. You have a life that is eternal. You have a life that is eternal. There is no death. No one you know has ever died in an eternal sense. They laid their bodies down. They laid their bodies down. You can feel your grief. You can feel missing them. You can feel the love. Nobody's saying that that's not legitimate. What I'm saying is your relatives and friends did not die. They are eternal spirits. They live forever. There is no death. Do people have the address of this place? Hey, love me some Secret Service. Sometimes I can't believe what I'm saying. That's most of the time, actually. Okay, this sword. What sword? The grim sword of interpretation, right? It does not exist. The fear of God is causeless. There's no reason to fear God. There is no reason to fear God. There is no reason to fear your Creator. There's no reason to be afraid of your Creator. There's no reason to be afraid of your Creator. That's the same as saying there is no need to be afraid of love. There's no need to be afraid of freedom. There's no need to be afraid of health. There's no reason to be afraid of wealth. There is no reason to be afraid of God. It's all the same thing. The reason why you don't need to be afraid of your Creator is because it's the love of your Creator, the love that comes from your Creator, causes everything that's beyond fear. Everything that's on the other side of your fear is the love that was created and extended by your Creator. Love. Just on the other side of your fear is love. Just on the other side of your interpretation of fear is love. Just on the other side of your interpretation of lack is abundance. Just on the other side of your interpretation of sickness, that it's sickness, is health. Just on the other side of your ego is the Holy Spirit. So God's love, your Creator's love, is the cause of what is real forever. So love is real forever. Temporary love is not love. Temporary love is not real love. Temporary love is not real love. You cannot lose real love, which means you still have the love of your Creator. You still have the love of God. You still have the love of your higher power. You still have that love. You can't lose that love. That love is real, and that love is now. So there. All right. Let me share this with you right quick. You really, this is my judgment. My judgment is that if you would let yourself listen to that several times, at least 4 times, every time you hear it, you would hear it at a brand new level. And you would find that you would start to have more peace. And then you start to find that out of the peace that you are having, you'll start creating more peace in your life and more peace all around you. And all you have to do is remember it. I would love to remember with you. I would love to remember with you. I'm asking for mighty companions. I'm asking for mighty companions. Let me share that. Give you an opportunity to share if you like. The Course in Miracles says, ask for what you want. And I want more and more and more people who would benefit through me and the way that I teach, and it works for them, and they're willing to work with me and let the Holy Spirit teach through me. I'm asking for what I want. I'm asking for people who really want to hear the Course in Miracles and hear the practical application of trying to remember it with me. So, if you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation, you can go to my website, earlpurdy.com. You can use, or make it easy, you can use Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Zelle, or Square. My email address is earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. P-U-R-D-Y. I'm available for one-on-one sessions called Clarity Sessions. And I'm also available for astrological and numerological sessions and coaching sessions. Just go to my website. You can self-book an appointment with me. I'd love to work with you because I know it's no accident that we're being sent to each other. And there's nothing you could ask me or say you would want to discuss that I couldn't use the Course in Miracles in terms of what parts of it answer that issue that you think you have. And so that's what we want to do. We want to go to the next level. We want to go to the next level of joy, the next level of peace together. All right. So let's take a breath now. And I'm on Facebook, YouTube, and you can come to in-person classes at 1555 Race Street here in Denver, Colorado, 80206. And I'm on YouTube. Take a breath. Remember that anger comes from an interpretation. Anger comes from an interpretation. Your anger is coming from an interpretation. Your upset is coming from an interpretation. How do you deal with that magic thought? How do you deal with that thought? How do you deal with the thoughts that you're separate from God, that you're separate from love? Recognize that your thoughts, your feelings are coming from an interpretation. The way that you're feeling right now is coming from an interpretation that you are projecting, What you're seeing is an interpretation you are projecting. What you are perceiving in everything and everyone around you is an interpretation that you are projecting. So if you can accept that you're looking at an interpretation, a judgment, something you've given meaning to, then it becomes easy for you to take the next step. And the next step is to let your interpretations be changed. It's time for you to get some new interpretations. Guess what? The Course in Miracles is a new interpretation. The Course in Miracles is a new interpretation. With the Course in Miracles, you're learning a new interpretation. And that new interpretation is, don't even think about the immensity of the enemy. You are separate. You wanted to be separate. Now it looks like you're separate. So just accept it and forget about it. And remember that the way that you're feeling is coming from an interpretation and believing that you're separate from God, but you're not. You're not. You're not. So this is what I want to end on. I'm willing, I let a new interpretation come to me. Let a new interpretation come to me. Let a new interpretation come to you. Let a new interpretation come to you. Let a new interpretation of that person come to you. Ask for a new interpretation of that person. Ask for a new interpretation of that person. Ask for a new interpretation of this situation. Ask for a new interpretation of the situation. And A Course in Miracles is a new interpretation that will give you a new feeling, that you will project on the world a feeling of love and peace because you've changed your interpretation and you've learned a new interpretation of that person or that situation. My companions, you are blessings beyond words to me. I'm so grateful for those in the room and those watching online. It's so great to have my mighty companions. You are my mighty companions. You are my mighty companions.